Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope all of you are doing amazing. Today, as you can already see on your screen, we are going to talk about a technology which is very much there in all the banks. A technology which has been in the market for the longest time. A technology which has been serving in the healthcare, in the banking primarily, end to end, and that is SAS. So now after so many comments, many of you are asking me that Rajat, please make a playlist on SAS, right? So now I have broken down this as per my knowledge and which has been used in the industry in real time. And to be honest, I have conducted so many SAS trainings in my previous companies for so many people. Okay. Now see the structure. So here we are going to start with the module 1. There I will talk about like PDV, what is SAS, why we use SAS, what is PDV. PDV is the heart of SAS. We will talk about that. Then what are the data types which are being used in SAS. Then what are the missing value, how do we treat missing value, and the data step basics. So these are the 4 topics which we are going to talk now in this particular video. Then we'll move to module 2, where we'll talk about the processing and the logic, where we'll talk about the conditional formatting, everything we'll talk. Then third, we'll talk about the group processing, that how you use the group by logic, and the most importantly, first dot and last dot logic. What are the aggregations? How important is first dot and last dot? It's very important. Now, module 4 will talk about the formats and the most important functions which are getting used in SAS in banks. Why I am keeping only these number of topics here? Because these are the topics I know are getting used in real world. Okay. So if you want to get a job into any reporting, any kind of a SAS environment where there is any ETL work is going on, this is the main thing you should be knowing, whatever I am capturing here. Then module 5 will talk about basically SQL. These are all SQL inside SAS, we call it proc SQL. That's why I mentioned proc SQL. Then we'll talk about the most important procedures, and then we'll talk about the SAS macro. Macro means like automating the SAS macros. And then I'll try to make a simple project for all of you, so that all of you who are new to this whole world of analytics, they can understand it very easily. It's not going to be a very extensive project. Let me be very direct on that. Okay. Now, one more thing which you may think, see, merging the data, understanding the joins is very important. That is something also I will cover in this one. Okay. Now, without wasting time, let me move on to the module 1 for the day, because we are going to talk about the crux of SAS, like the heart of SAS, that is PDV. So now let's move. So first of all, you should understand in such a way that SAS is a tool which is used in analytical industry by healthcare, by banking, by insurance company, all of them, for complete ETL work. What is ETL? Extract, transform, and load. So basically, using SAS, you can manipulate the data, you can create any new data sets, you can move the data from one place to another place and convert it into a properly regulated kind of a report which is being generated inside the banks. Okay. Now, SAS is particularly used widely in 2 areas. So you need to understand that. One is the healthcare, which I will not be covering in this particular place because I am moreover from the banking background. So I'll talk about that only. Okay. Now, originally stood for statistical analysis system. That is the full form of SAS. It's developed by the SAS Institute. Okay, a few years back, SAS officially dropped the name and now simply known it's by acronym. They just call themselves SAS. This is just the background, historical thing. Okay. Now, what are the uses? Who need to learn this? Basically, obviously, you will ask, right, that why should I learn? Why should I go through this complete playlist, Rajat? Why you're making this video even, right? So this is used for data entry. Okay, this is used for data retrieval. That is used for data management. Then reporting. Whenever we're talking about reporting, don't get confused that you are just a part of a kind of a small work. Reporting is a very vast field and there are so many jobs in reporting. It's the easiest way to get into banking or credit risk by this particular reporting portfolio. You can get a job in reporting area and then you'll easily part of the credit risk system. Going forward, you can move to modeling, whatever you want, right? Then it can also help you to graphic design in terms of the reports, like you can create amazing reports, right? Then there are statistical mathematical analysis, which is like statistical calculations. You heard about regression model or classification. All those things are also implemented in SAS in so much easy manner. Then business planning, forecasting, decision support, research, project management, all these etc, and application development within the system, right? So this is all about why we are using SAS. Okay, what is SAS, why we are using? I hope it is clear to you now. Now let's move on to something more important. that what is the data flow of SAS, how the data is flowing inside the SAS. This is again a very important aspect. So let's talk about this now. See, first of all, in any area, when you are talking about database management, you have a data warehouse. So data warehouse is your input. Then from data warehouse, the data goes using any query, right? Other than data warehouse, you have some time files. Files can be anything. It can be Excel files. Because in banks, in real world scenario, the data is coming in Excel, CSV, JSON, all these formats. All of the formats are coming. So these are the two type of data. Like this is normal RDBMS based, which is relational database management system. It can be any database. For example, if I take Oracle, or it can be Teradata, or any databases which are there in market. Okay, then you have flat files. These are Excel file, CSV, JSON, anything. We call them flat file in industry. Now both of them, there are two types. These are the two type of file which are coming as an input. Okay, input as in we would throw a query using SAS, using Python, using SQL, and we fetch the data from the input file. That is something you should know. Now in SAS, how this will go, you will write something. Just understand that you have written a program, how the function is working. From data warehouse, it will come to data query and extraction stage 1. Then data has been extracted. Now you have the data. Basically you have fetch a table, for example a customer table. Now all the data of the customer is there. Then you will do some data cleaning. For example, in the customer data, there are so many, you can say, balances. Okay, you can say so many loan details. Now there are some loan detail which are missing, there are not proper value added, or maybe some geographical data is missing for the customer. So you will do all that data cleaning. You will check all the columns that everything is perfect or not. That is important. Then you will do the transformation. Now for example, you want to do any statistical thing, that is also a transformation. You want to apply a regression model of the data. Data cleaning is done. That is also data transformation. Or you want to sort the data as per the highest salary on the top, lowest on the bottom. That is again the data transformation. That is transformation part. Then you have the analysis. Analysis means that now you have a structured data in front of you. You are doing some analysis. Let's say I ask you, how many customers are there whose monthly expense is more than $5 million? So that is an analysis on the data. That's also you can do using SAS. Then in the last, you will do the data transformation, publish the result. You can publish the result in so many forms. You can do it in SAS dataset. What is dataset now? You will be keen to know. So normal in SQL we call a table, right? In SQL terms we call it a table. In SAS we call it a dataset. Nothing more than that. It's pretty simple. Then this dataset you can use as an input for Power BI, for any other tool also. That is depending on your choice. So basically this whole pipeline is getting created here, right? So this is how basically the overall analytical flow of SAS is working. So now we know what is SAS, why we use SAS, and then we know the flow of the data. That's how this particularly whole thing functioning, this system is functioning. Now, obviously, one question will come to your mind that, Rajat, can you tell us that how SAS is working on the back end? What is the backside functionality which we cannot see directly, how the data is getting processed? So for that, we need to move into another important topic which I mentioned today, that is PDV. Okay, and before moving to PDV, you should understand there are two type of data processing which is getting happening in SAS inside the PDV itself. Okay, inside PDV there is a compilation, there is an execution phase. Now first let's talk about what is PDV. Then we'll move on to what is compilation, what is execution. So PDV, you can understand, PDV is like the CPU of SAS. It's the CPU. So the program data vector, which is the full form, is a logical area of memory. This is created using the data step processing. So whenever you're processing the data, PDV is getting created on the backend by itself. So SAS builds a SAS data set by reading one observation at a time into the PDV. So it read one observation at the time from the table. It pick that observation from the table and then put it here one by one. That's what I meant here. Okay. So unless you are given code to do otherwise, there is a manual way, but we don't do that. Okay, PDV function normally one by one. That's why sometimes SAS is slow also. You will heard this so many times that SAS is a bit slow. That is the reason SAS is slow. Then write the observation to a target data set. We'll all talk about data set. So just remember, don't say table in SAS, it's a data set. Then the PDV contain two type of variable inside it by default. Whenever you are executing, there are two variables which are by default there. Then what are they? They are underscore n and underscore error underscore. So what is this? This talks about the number of iterations, how many time your PDV has scanned. Let's say for example there are 10 row. So what is the underscore n underscore value? 10. That's how simple. Then what is underscore error underscore? So whenever you are hitting a SAS code error, this is a variable which tells you where exactly the error is. So you'll get to know that later on. Okay, but just try to remember what is PDV. It's a area in memory, logical area in memory, where the one by one we are shifting the observations. Then there are two automatic variable. There is underscore n underscore error underscore. Now this is again very important for interviews. They ask what are the automatic variable you use, what is the purpose of them. Okay, these are very basic, but you should know that. Then there are permanent data sets which are totally different. These are all temporary. Okay, so we don't need to talk about the permanent one at the moment. Now let's move forward a bit more. I hope this much is clear to you. If it's not, please make sure that you let me know about that. So now let's talk about the processing part. Compilation phase, during this phase, each of the statement within the data steps are scanned for syntax error. So you are checking the syntax error in the compilation stage. Okay, then descriptor portion of SAS dataset get created at the end of the compilation phase, as in the syntax error is checked. Now you have a proper structured data which you have ready for next phase. Following are the two other objects which will created at the time of compilation. One is your PDV, which we are talking about. Then we have the input buffer. I hope this makes sense. Input buffer is a physical area of memory. PDV is the logical area of memory. That's the difference between both of them. Now let's move forward and talk about the execution phase. See, now in the execution, we have completed the compilation phase. In the execution, it will initialize variable to missing. All the variable which are there in your table, in your data set, those will be set to missing value. Okay. After that, there is an input statement where we give the variables. You remember, there is a structure of the data step when you write that. I will show you in the same video, maybe 2-3 minutes later on. Okay, so understand, just now you have initialized the variable all to missing, then you have an input which will tell what are the exact columns which are getting introduced or induced here. Then the execute statement will follow that you have to execute all these variables now. Then output to SAS dataset will be flown. But before that, you understand this loop. If you have given input end of file, then yes, if it's a yes, so next step will follow. And if it's not end of the file, it will keep on repeating this till the time it finish all the observation. Let's say you have 10 million observation. Now you can imagine how much time this will take. That's why I'm not saying it will take like 10 days. It will take couple of minutes, couple of hours. But again, it's bit slow sometime. One more thing, SAS is doing all this computation in-memory computation. SAS pulls the data into its own memory and then do all these calculations. That's why this compilation execution phase is overall a bit time consuming when you have gigabytes, so many gigabytes of data, right? I have seen there are SAS code which are running for like 6 hours, whole day, 24 hours also, when they are processing maybe terabytes of data at that time. But still, it's a very, very much useful technology. All of the bank are using it. It's the easiest technology in terms of entering into the world of banking from the credit risk, market risk, any area. Now, let's move forward a bit. So guys, now let's see what is the next thing we need to cover. That was data types. So now it's very easy. It's going to be super easy. That's why SAS is so good, easy to understand. Okay, the reason is because these data types are just two types. So in languages like C, C++, you will see so many data type, int, float, this, that, right? But in SAS, you have just two data type. One is your numeric, then you have your character. That's it. There is nothing above and below this. These are the two data types which are getting used. Everything 2 or 2.5, everything is numeric. It's a complete number, it's a floating point number. There is no confusion like that. And character is anything, you understand character very well, anything which you have written. So basically English related, whatever you write in English is your character, and whatever you are giving as a number, that is your numeric data type. So these are the only two data types which are getting used here. Okay, now let's talk about the missing value. So for missing value, let's go directly into SAS and we'll see some practical stuff. Just try to understand that there are two types of data types. You know, right? I just told you that we have numeric and character. Now, when you have a numeric one, that will be denoted as a dot in SAS. If there is a missing value at the place where there should be a numeric value, it will be denoted as dot. Otherwise, it will be shown as a blank space, not as an underscore. It will be inside the double ticks as a blank space. So that's how we denote the missing values here. Now, to make it super easy for you to understand, let's see one small SAS code. And this is a SAS University edition, so you also can make your profile in the SAS University edition. I would just recommend just directly go on Google and type the SAS University, and you will see a link there which will take you to SAS Studio for free, completely free. Okay, let me just show you also. Some of you may get SAS University edition on demand SAS. When you click on this, just access now, create your account, and it will take you to this particular place. Super easy. Now, the fourth topic, the last topic for the day, because it's a session 1, so I don't want to make it so complex. Now, just understand how we are defining a data set. There is a structure for a data set, right? Which we have to follow. When I'm creating a table, you know, select from where all those things we use. In SAS, we use something like this. So we have a keyword data. Data is denoting that Rajat is trying to create a data set. Now, the name of the data set can be anything. You can use that. There is some naming convention. So you cannot give a data set name starting with underscore. Okay. So that is something you always remember, and always try to maintain the name of the data set related to the work you are doing. Let's say you are working on the loan data. So try to make, let's say, loan data set name, or when you'll go forward, maybe try to do loan underscore 1, loan underscore 2, or depending on the function you are performing. That's how you should do some naming convention here. Then statement to read or manipulate or create any data will go here. Let's say set state is the set statement. Now, simple, understand the flow will be data, then input, then set, then run. Why run is there? Like data itself, this run tells SAS that your data set is completed here. So this particular process you can stop here. Then inside this block, there is an input and set. So what input says? Input is used to define the variables. How many variables you have, like customer name, customer ID, customer data, anything, customer address, phone number, whatever, everything will go in the input. Then you have set. Set is basically used to set one data set inside another data set. So let's say I have a process where I am trying to combine two type of loan. Let's say I have auto loan data, okay, and then I have another auto loan data. This auto loan data belongs to 2005. This auto loan data belongs to 2006. Now somebody tells you that just combine this data. So what you will do, data AL 2005. Then we'll write a semicolon. Semicolon is used to denote that the line is ending. Then I will use set a statement and I will set the AL 2006. And then run statement, then again say semicolon. Semicolon should not be missed. That is the most important catch here. You should put the semicolon. Otherwise, SAS will see that it's not a completed data set. Okay. So then you will not get the output. Now, this is something which is clear to you. Now, let's go to the code. So I have a data. What it is doing, it's creating a data set named Rajat. Then input is X. Only one variable I'm giving as an input. And then cards. What is cards? Cards is basically used to give small data as an input. So we are using card here, and all this data which I'm using here, this will go inside this particular variable, which is variable X. So it's a single variable, multiple data rows. These are the rows. Okay. So don't get confused. Cards is just a way to take the input. That's how the SAS functionality, it's created by the SAS programmer. Don't think much about it. Why it's there, why it's card. Don't think that. Then semicolon, after every line you can see semicolon, and then run. So what it is doing, it's putting all this data inside Rajat. Then I'm using one proc, which is proc frequency. Don't think what is proc frequency at the moment. What I'm trying to do here is just to show you how the missing values are getting treated. So proc frequency we'll talk later on when we will talk about the procedures. Okay. So I'm trying to create a table about this missing values which are here. Table of X. Okay. What is X? The variable. So proc frequency will run on Rajat by default, and then it will show the data of X. So now let's run this code. So this is your first code in SAS. So yeah, that's how you run the code. You click on this and this will populate the output. Now this is the output. Before you understand the output, there are three things you can see: code, log, result, output data. So these are the window which are used in SAS. So whenever you write a SAS code, you're running a SAS enterprise guide or anything like that. So basically these are the window which will be there. Now you see the log. I told you that PDV is getting created, right? So this all log is talking about that in this data set, Rajat has 9 observations and single one variable. So this is the information about it. It's showing you how much CPU time it took. It was very fast, right? Very small number of observations. And then we ran the proc frequency. And why you can see all this code? Because this is code, something I will show you now. But why it's in black? Because it's commented at the moment. I'm not executing it. Now just try to understand. See, it's showing there are 5 missing values. So in the missing frequency, it's showing 5. Now let's go back to the code. So you have dot here, you have a dot here. How many dots you have? 5. All of those dots, anything which is written after the dot is considered as a missing value. That's the learning here. Okay. Now let's go down and understand this piece. So you have a data, new data set. Oops, let me remove the comment. That's how you comment or uncomment. So now you understand, right? See, data is output data. So I am setting Rajat inside this. You know what is the observation in Rajat? So I'm creating a new variable inside this out data. That is Y. We have X. Now I'm creating Y. So basically, if X has dot anywhere, then there is a new variable Y which will be shown as missing, and else Y will be shown as non-missing. Simple. And this will only create the data set. It will not execute it. Now to print this data set, I need to give this procedure proc print data. Don't worry about the procedure at the moment. You will understand it by the end of this playlist. Okay. So just focus on this one for now. Let me run this whole code now together. So this is the output from proc frequency. You can see it. Then you have the output here. See, right? Wherever you have a missing value, wherever you don't have a missing value, you have got that. So what you put? Only dot. That's why you are getting only place where dot was there as a missing value. So I hope you got it, right? That's how we handle the missing value. Other than this, we do have a missing function also, which works on numeric or character both. So that's how we write it. Let me write it for you. Missing function is more proficient. Missing. And inside this, I'll write X. Now when I run it, do you think there is any output change? See. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, guys.